Commander Hyun stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, staring at the screen in front of him. Something was wrong. The sensors were showing an energy spike that should not exist. It came from a place that had been empty for 800 years. The Sol system. Earth's home. "Run the scan again," Hyun ordered his crew. "Check for errors." The young officer at the console worked quickly, her fingers moving across the controls. After a moment, she looked up with wide eyes. "Commander, the readings are correct. The barrier around Sol system is collapsing." Hyun felt his chest tighten. Every species in the Galactic Council knew the story of Earth. Humanity had been a promising young species, full of energy and curiosity. They had just started to explore beyond their own solar system when something happened. Without warning, they built a massive barrier around their entire star system. No ships could get in. No signals could get out. For 8 centuries, Sol had been a black hole in Council space, a mystery that no one could solve. Most people believed humanity had destroyed themselves, some great war experiment gone wrong. It was a story parents told their children as a warning about the dangers of advancing too quickly. But now the barrier was falling. "Get me a channel to Council headquarters," Hyun said. "And prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We are going to Sol system." 3 days later, Hyun's fleet of 12 ships approached the edge of where the barrier had been. The space around them looked normal now. Stars twinkled in the distance. But every sensor on every ship was screaming warnings. The amount of energy being released as the barrier collapsed was enormous. It was like watching a dam break, except the dam was made of folded space-time itself. "Commander, we have a contact," the sensor officer called out. "Single ship emerging from Sol system." Hyun leaned forward. "Show me." The image appeared on the main screen. At first, Hyun thought there was an error in the display. The ship looked wrong. Its hull seemed to shift and change as he watched it. Parts of it appeared to be made of metal, but other sections looked almost organic. The design was unlike anything in the Council database. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Hail them," Hyun ordered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice came through the speakers. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, the common language used by all Council species. "This is Captain Daeho of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We mean no harm. We request permission to speak with representatives of the Galactic Council." Hyun felt a chill run down his spine. The voice was calm, confident. This was not a desperate survivor from a dead world. This was someone who knew exactly what they were doing. "This is Commander Hyun of the Council Patrol Fleet. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Earth has been isolated for 800 years. You have a lot of explaining to do." There was a pause. Then Captain Daeho spoke again. "Commander, I understand your concern, but we do not have time for lengthy inspections. We came out of isolation because we need to warn the Council. There is a threat approaching this galaxy, something that will destroy everything if we do not work together." Hyun looked at his officers. Several of them were shaking their heads. This sounded like a trick. But something in the captain's voice made Hyun hesitate. "What kind of threat?" Hyun asked. "Not over an open channel," Daeho replied. "This information must be presented to the full Council. But I can tell you this. 800 years ago, we detected something coming from beyond the galaxy, something that consumes entire star systems. We isolated ourselves to prepare, to build defenses, to survive. Now we are ready, and the threat is almost here." Hyun's mind raced. If this was true, it would change everything. But if it was a lie, if this was some kind of trap, he could be putting the entire Council at risk by letting this ship pass. "Commander," his tactical officer said quietly, "I am reading their ship's power signature. It is far beyond anything we have in our database. Whatever technology they have, it is extremely advanced." Hyun made his decision. "Captain Daeho, I am ordering my science officer to perform a passive scan of your vessel. If you truly mean no harm, you will allow this." "Understood," Daeho said. "Scan away." The science officer worked at her station for several minutes. Hyun watched her face grow more and more concerned. Finally, she looked up at him. "Commander, I do not understand these readings. The ship's power core is generating energy levels that should not be possible. Their weapon systems are active but in standby mode. If they wanted to, they could destroy our entire fleet in seconds. And their hull is constructed from materials I cannot identify. Some of it does not register as matter at all in conventional terms." Hyun felt sweat form on his forehead. He had commanded patrol fleets for 60 years. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but this was different. This was beyond his experience. Captain Deho, Hyun said slowly, I am contacting Council headquarters. I am recommending that you be allowed to travel to Calaris Prime for an emergency meeting. But understand this. My fleet will escort you. If you make any hostile moves, we will engage. He could almost hear the smile in Deho's voice. Commander, if we wanted to be hostile, we would not have announced ourselves. We came here to help. We just hope the Council will listen. Within an hour, Ambassador Mirai arrived on a fast courier ship. She was one of the oldest and most respected diplomats in the Council. She had lived for over 600 years and had negotiated peace treaties between dozens of species. When she stepped onto Hyun's bridge, everyone stood a little straighter. Commander, she said, her voice calm and measured. Brief me. Hyun explained everything. The barrier collapse, the strange ship, the warning about a threat from beyond the galaxy. Mirai listened without interrupting. When he finished, she walked to the viewing screen and stared at the Earth vessel. I was there, she said quietly, 800 years ago. I was part of the delegation that tried to contact Earth when they first built the barrier. We tried everything, every communication method we knew. They never responded. We thought they were dead or mad. She turned to face Hyun. But looking at that ship, I do not think they were either. I think they knew something we did not. And I think we need to hear what they have to say. You believe them? Hyun asked. Mirai smiled sadly. I believe that ship should not exist. The technology required to build it is centuries beyond what Earth had when they isolated themselves, which means they either found something in their isolation or they stole it from somewhere. Either way, we need to know the truth. She activated her communicator. Captain Deho, this is Ambassador Mirai of the Galactic Council. You will be granted safe passage to Calaris Prime. The full council will convene in 5 days. You will present your evidence and your warnings. But know this. If you are lying to us, if this is some kind of scheme, the full might of the council will come down upon Earth. Deho's voice came back strong and clear. Ambassador, we have waited 800 years for this moment. We have sacrificed more than you can imagine to prepare for what is coming. We are not lying. We are trying to save you. We are trying to save everyone. The Earthship began to move, and Hyun's fleet moved with it. As they traveled toward the council capital, Hyun could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. For 800 years, humanity had been a ghost story, a cautionary tale, but ghosts did not build ships like the one flying ahead of him. Ghosts did not speak with such confidence. Whatever Earth had become during their isolation, it was something the galaxy had never seen before. And in 5 days, everyone would know the truth. The Grand Assembly Chamber on Calaris Prime was filled with representatives from 47 different species. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some saw invisible light, others in radiation spectrums that would kill a human instantly. But all of them had one thing in common. They were all staring at the 3 Earth ships that had just arrived in orbit. Ambassador Mirai stood near the observation window, watching the vessels. 2 more had joined Captain Deho during the journey. They were each different in design, but all shared that same impossible quality. They looked like they should not exist, Ambassador, a voice said behind her. She turned to see High Chancellor Vex, the leader of the council. Vex was a being of pure energy, contained in a crystalline form. When he spoke, his voice resonated through the entire chamber. What do you make of this? Vex asked. Mirai chose her words carefully. I think we are about to learn that we know less about the universe than we thought. The doors to the chamber opened. Captain Deho walked in, flanked by 2 other humans. One was a woman who carried herself like a soldier. The other was a man with the look of a scientist. They wore simple uniforms of dark blue with no weapons visible, but Mirai noticed something. Every species in the chamber, even those with completely different biology, took a step back when the humans entered. There was something about them, an intensity, a presence that filled the room. Deho walked to the center of the chamber and bowed respectfully. Honored members of the Galactic Council, I am Captain Deho of Earth. With me are Dr. Jiwon, our lead scientist, and Commander Bora, our military liaison. We thank you for agreeing to this meeting. High Chancellor Vex floated forward. Captain Deho, for 800 years, Earth has been silent. Your species built a barrier that defied all our attempts to breach it. Many believed you had destroyed yourselves. Others thought you had gone mad. And now you return with warnings of threats and requests for alliance. You must understand our skepticism. Deho nodded. I understand completely, Chancellor. If I were in your position, I would be skeptical too, but I ask that you hear what we have to say. Then judge for yourselves. Vex gestured to the center of the chamber where a holographic projector waited. Show us. Dr. G1 stepped forward and activated the projector. The chamber darkened and images filled the air above them. Mirai watched as the display showed views of deep space far beyond the galaxy. 800 years ago, G1 began, Earth launched an experimental sensor array. It was designed to look deeper into space than any instrument before it. We wanted to map the universe beyond our galaxy. What we found was not stars or nebulas. The image shifted. It showed something moving through the darkness between galaxies. At first it looked like a cloud, but as the image zoomed in, Mirai felt her breath catch. It was not a cloud. It was a swarm. Billions and billions of objects moving together in perfect coordination. We call them the harvesters, G1 continued. They are machines. Self-replicating machines that consume everything in their path. Planets, stars, even the gas between star systems. They break it all down to its basic atoms and use it to build more of themselves. A council member from the Tellurian species stood up. This is impossible. Nothing could survive in the void between galaxies. There is not enough energy. G1 looked at him calmly. You are correct. Nothing biological could survive. But these are not biological. They do not need food or rest. They move slowly, taking centuries to cross the void, but they do not stop, ever. The images continued. They showed simulations of what the harvesters did to star systems. Mirai watched in horror as entire worlds were stripped down to nothing. The machines worked with terrifying efficiency. Within days, a thriving solar system became nothing but raw materials for more machines. When we discovered them, Deho said, taking over from G1, we calculated their trajectory and speed. They were heading toward our galaxy. They would arrive in approximately 1,000 years. Then why hide? Another council member demanded. Why not warn us immediately? Deho's expression grew hard. Because we did warn you. 800 years ago, Earth sent delegations to 12 different council species. We showed them our data. We begged for help preparing defenses. He paused and Mirai suddenly felt very cold. She remembered something from the old records. There had been reports from Earth claiming to have detected a threat. But the council had dismissed them. Humanity was too young, too inexperienced. Their sensors must have been faulty. You did not believe us, Deho said quietly. You thought we were mistaken or trying to gain advantage somehow. So we made a decision. If the council would not prepare, we would prepare ourselves. By hiding? Vex asked. By buying time, Deho corrected. Dr. G1 showed them. The hologram shifted again. This time it showed Earth's solar system, surrounded by the barrier. But something was wrong with the image. The stars outside the barrier were moving. Time-lapse images showed them shifting position far faster than they should. Ji-won spoke, her voice filled with pride. We did not just build a barrier. We built a time dilation field. Inside our solar system, time moved faster than in the rest of the universe. Much faster. Mirai felt the ground shift under her feet. How much faster? For every year that passed in the galaxy, Ji-won said, 15 years passed inside our barrier. While 800 years went by for you, we experienced 12,000 years. The chamber erupted. Council members shouted in disbelief. Some called it impossible. Others called it a lie. But Mirai was doing the math in her head. 12,000 years. 12,000 years of development, of research, of preparation. Silence. Vex's voice cut through the chaos. When the chamber quieted, he turned to the humans. Prove it. If you truly had 12,000 years, prove you did not waste them. Deho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had expected this question and was ready for it. Commander Bora, he said, show them the fleet. Bora activated her own device. The hologram changed to show the space around Earth. Mirai had seen these images during the journey here. She had thought they were impressive. But now she realized she had only seen a small part of the truth. The hologram zoomed out, showing the entire Sol system. And everywhere Mirai looked, there were ships. Thousands of ships. They orbited every planet, every moon, every major asteroid. They filled the space around the sun in vast formations. 10,000 warships, Bora said calmly. Each one more advanced than your best vessels. We have been building them for 12,000 years. We have been preparing for this war for longer than some of your civilizations have existed. The chamber was silent now. Mireille looked around and saw the same expression on every face. Fear. The Council's entire military fleet numbered fewer than 3,000 ships, and those had been built over millennia by 47 different species working together. Earth had more than 3 times that number. Built by one species, in isolation. A council member from the Korath species stood. He was a warrior race, proud and strong. You speak of preparation for war, but how do we know you prepare to fight these harvesters? Perhaps you prepare to conquer us. Deho turned to face him, because if we wanted to conquer you, we would have done it already. We have had 12,000 years to plan. If we were your enemy, you would already be defeated. The bluntness of the statement shocked everyone, but Mireille realized it was true. If Earth wanted war, the Council would have no warning. No chance to prepare. They would simply wake up one day to find human ships in orbit around every Council world. We do not want conquest, Deho continued. We want survival. The harvesters are coming. Our calculations show they will reach Council space in approximately 30 years. Not 1,000 years as we originally thought. They have accelerated. And how is that possible? G1 demanded. G1 looked grim. We think they detected our barrier falling. They sensed the energy release, and they adjusted their course to investigate. We may have accidentally called them to us sooner. The weight of that statement settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. 30 years. It seemed like a long time, but Mireille knew it was nothing. The Council moved slowly. Decisions took years. Building ships took decades. 30 years was barely enough time to begin preparing. High Chancellor Vex was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with resignation, and something that might have been respect. What do you propose? Deho straightened. We propose an alliance. We share our technology, our weapons, our ships. We train your people in the tactics we have developed, and when the harvesters arrive, we face them together. And in return, Vex asked, in return you trust us. You let us lead the military response. You accept that we have spent 12,000 years preparing for this, and we know how to fight them. It was a bold request. The Council had never given military command to a single species before. Every member had equal say, but Mireille understood the logic. In war, you could not have 47 different commanders all arguing about tactics. I will need to consult with the Council, Vex said. This is not a decision I can make alone. Of course, Deho said. But Chancellor, I must ask, how long will this consultation take? Vex hesitated. Normally, several months. Then I suggest you move faster, Deho said quietly, because the harvesters do not wait for anyone. And every day we delay is a day we could be preparing. The meeting ended with no clear decision. But as Mireille watched the humans leave the chamber, she knew the Council would agree. Not because they trusted Earth, but because they had no choice. The galaxy needed humanity now, even if that thought terrified them. Commander Hyun had seen many impressive things in his 60 years of service. He had watched stars being born. He had witnessed the construction of massive space stations that housed billions. He had even seen the great ring world of the Peltro system, built over thousands of years. But nothing had prepared him for this. His ship emerged from the warp point at the edge of Earth's solar system, and he had to grip his console to steady himself. The view screen showed something that should not exist. The moon was covered in structures. Not just a few bases or mining operations. The entire surface was transformed into a massive shipyard. Vessels in various stages of construction floated in perfect formation above it. Hyun counted them quickly, more than 200 ships just in this one location. Commander, his sensor officer said, her voice shaking slightly. I am detecting similar facilities around Mars, Europa, Titan, and 3 of the larger asteroids. The entire system has been weaponized. Hyun was part of the Council inspection team, sent to verify Earth's claims about their military strength. Ambassador Mireille was with him, along with representatives from a dozen other Council species. After a week of debate, the Council had agreed to see Earth's preparations with their own eyes. Now Hyun was wondering if that had been a mistake. Some things once seen could not be unseen. Incoming message, the communications officer announced. It is from Admiral Yoonji, commander of Earth's defense forces. She is inviting us to dock with their flagship, the Endurance. Accept, Mireille said from her position beside Hyun. We came here to see the truth. Let us see it. The Endurance was unlike any ship Hyun had ever seen. It was 3 kilometers long, shaped like a blade pointed at the stars. Its hull seemed to shift colors as they approached, adapting to the light around it. When they finally docked, Hyun counted at least 50 different weapon systems on the sections of the ship he could see. Admiral Yoonji met them in the docking bay. She was tall for a human, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was simple but bore marks of rank that glittered in the light. What struck Hyun most was her eyes. They were old, not physically but in the way they looked at the world. This was someone who had seen too much, lived too long, and made too many hard decisions. Ambassador Mirai, Yoonji said, bowing slightly. Commander Hyun, welcome aboard the Endurance. I am Admiral Yoonji, commander of Earth's defensive fleet. I have been in this position for 230 years. Hyun blinked. 230 years? But humans only live about 100 years. Yoonji smiled slightly. That was true 800 years ago. We have had time to improve. Current human lifespan averages around 500 years with proper medical care. I'm 412 years old. The implication hit Hyun like a physical blow. Humans now lived as long as many council species, and with 12,000 years of subjective time in their isolation, that meant generations of humans had been born, lived, and died preparing for this war. The dedication required was staggering. I imagine you have many questions, Yoonji continued. Let me start with a tour. I think seeing our preparations will answer most of them. She led them through the ship. Every corridor was wide and efficient. Every room served a purpose. Crew members moved with practiced precision, saluting the Admiral as she passed. Hyun noticed that many of them had modifications. Cybernetic implants, enhanced vision systems, even what looked like neural interfaces built directly into their skulls. We have found that human-machine integration greatly improves combat effectiveness, Yoonji explained when she noticed his stare. Every member of our military has at least basic enhancement. It allows them to interface directly with ship systems, to react faster than biological reflexes alone would allow. They entered what Yoonji called the war room. It was a massive chamber filled with holographic displays. Each one showed a different part of the galaxy. Red markers indicated council space. Blue markers showed Earth's fleet positions. And far beyond the galaxy's edge, a massive red cloud slowly crept closer. The Harvesters, Yoonji said, pointing to the cloud. Based on our most recent data, they will reach the outer rim of the galaxy in 28 years, 4 months, and approximately 6 days. We have been tracking them for 12,000 years. We know their patterns, their strategies, their weaknesses. Weaknesses? One of the council representatives asked. You said they were unstoppable. I said they were dangerous, Yoonji corrected. Everything has weaknesses. We have spent thousands of years studying them from long range, analyzing every pattern, every behavior. They are machines. Sophisticated, yes. Adaptive, certainly. But still machines. And machines follow rules, she gestured, and one of the displays zoomed in on the Harvester swarm. They operate in hierarchies. Small swarms combine into larger ones. The larger ones are controlled by central nodes. Destroy enough nodes and you can disrupt their coordination. That is the theory, at least. You have never fought them, Mirai observed. No, Yoonji admitted, but we have simulated every possible engagement scenario 10,000 times. We have built weapons specifically designed to counter their tactics, and we have prepared our people to fight a war unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Hyun spoke up. Admiral, with respect, simulations are not reality. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Yoonji turned to him, and for a moment Hyun saw something frightening in her eyes. Not anger, recognition. You are absolutely correct, Commander, which is why we have also prepared for failure. Let me show you something. She led them deeper into the ship, down corridors that required multiple security clearances. Finally, they entered a laboratory where a man in a white coat was working on complex equations displayed in holographic form. This is scientist Taewon, Yoonji introduced. He leads our Advanced Weapons Research Division. Taewon, show our guests the hammer. Taewon's eyes lit up with enthusiasm that made Hyun nervous. Ah yes, the hammer. Please look here. He pulled up a holographic model of a device. It looked deceptively simple. A sphere surrounded by several rings that rotated in different directions. This, Taewon said proudly, is a contained antimatter bomb with a transdimensional pocket. When detonated, it does not just destroy matter. It removes it from this dimension entirely. The explosion can be scaled from destroying a single ship to sterilizing an entire star system. The room went silent. Hyun felt his stomach drop. You built a weapon that can destroy star systems? We built thousands of them, Taewon said cheerfully. It is one of our more conservative options. Would you like to see the gravitational lance? It creates localized black holes that we can aim, or the swarm breakers. They release trillions of nanomachines that can disassemble enemy vessels at the molecular level. Mirai stepped forward. Admiral, these weapons. They could destroy the Council as easily as these harvesters. Yoonji's expression became serious. Yes, they could. We have had 12,000 years to develop weapons, Ambassador. We have technologies that would terrify you. We can manipulate gravity, fold space, even affect the flow of time in limited areas. We have become very, very good at building things that destroy. She paused, then continued. But we did not build them to threaten you. We built them because we saw what was coming. We saw a threat that would consume everything. And we decided that we would rather have the tools to fight and never use them against friends than not have them when the enemy arrives. How do we know you will not turn these weapons on us? Another council member demanded. Yoonji looked at him calmly. You do not know. You have to trust us, just as we are trusting you by showing you these things. We could have kept them secret. We could have let you discover them during the war, but we chose transparency because that is what allies do. Hyun realized something then. Earth was not asking the Council for help. Earth was offering to help the Council. They had the power to face the harvesters alone, but they chose to share that power, to bring the galaxy together rather than face the darkness by themselves. The tour continued. They saw training facilities where human soldiers practiced fighting in every environment imaginable. They saw factories that could produce a new warship every 3 days. They saw resource management systems that could track and allocate materials across the entire solar system with perfect efficiency. But what struck Hyun most was the people. Everywhere they went, humans worked with intense focus. There was no wasted motion, no idle conversation. Everyone had a purpose, a task, a mission. This was a society that had spent 12,000 years preparing for one thing: war. In the observation deck, Mirai stood beside Hyun, looking out at the fleet formations, practicing maneuvers around Jupiter. They frighten me, she admitted quietly. Not because they are hostile, but because they are so prepared for violence. What happens after the harvesters are defeated? What happens to a society built entirely around fighting? Hyun had been wondering the same thing. Perhaps they will teach us. Perhaps we need to learn how to be ready for threats before they arrive. Or perhaps, Miri said, we will learn the cost of such readiness. Look at Admiral Yoonji. She has lived for 4 centuries, and I doubt she has known peace for any of them. Is that a life worth living? Before Hyun could answer, Yoonji appeared beside them. She had approached silently, another skill born of military training. Ambassador, she said, you wonder if we are still human, if 12,000 years of preparation for war has made us into something else? Mirai looked embarrassed. I meant no offense. None taken, Yoonji replied. I wonder the same thing sometimes. But then I remember why we did this. We did not prepare because we love war. We prepared because we love life. Because we saw our children's future being consumed by machines, and we decided that was not acceptable. She gestured to the stars beyond the window. Every ship out there, every weapon we built, every year we spent in isolation, it was all so that life could continue, so that the Council species could keep existing, so that somewhere in the galaxy, children could play without fear of the sky falling on them. Yoonji turned to face them both. Yes, we are different from the humans you remember. We are harder, colder, more willing to make terrible choices. But we are still human, and we still believe that life, any life, is worth fighting for. Hyun felt something shift in his understanding. Earth had not built an empire. They had built a shield, and they were offering to hold that shield for everyone. When do we begin integration? He asked. Yoonji smiled. Tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do, and 28 years is not as much time as you might think. The alarm woke Captain Somin from a deep sleep. She was on her feet in seconds, her enhanced reflexes taking over before her conscious mind fully engaged. The red emergency lights were flashing in her quarters, which meant only one thing: contact. She ran to the bridge of her ship, the Swift Arrow. Her crew was already at their stations. Every screen showed the same thing. A massive energy signature at the edge of known space, right where the dwarf galaxy NGC 2419 floated in the darkness. "Report," Somin ordered. Her sensor officer looked up, his face pale. "Captain, we are detecting massive gravitational distortions. Something big just entered normal space. Multiple contacts. Thousands of them." Somin felt her chest tighten. "How many years early?" 7 years ahead of predictions, Captain." She activated her communication system. "This is Captain Somin to all Council and Earth vessels in Sector 9. We have contact with unknown vessels at coordinates 773 Mark 52. All ships move to alert status. I am moving closer to investigate." The Swift Arrow was a scout ship, small and fast. It was designed for exactly this kind of mission. As they approached the contact point, Somin watched the sensors with growing dread. The number of contacts kept climbing. Thousands became tens of thousands. Tens of thousands became millions, Captain, her tactical officer said. "I am picking up a distress signal from Council Border Station Gamma 7. It is being attacked." Somin did not hesitate. "Maximum speed. Get us there now." They arrived too late. Border Station Gamma 7 had been home to 30 million people. Now it was simply gone. In its place was a cloud of debris and millions of small objects that swarmed through space like insects. As Somin watched, the objects descended on the debris, breaking it down, converting it into more of themselves. The harvesters. They looked nothing like the simulations. The simulations had been clean, orderly. This was chaos. The machines ranged in size from specks too small to see to massive constructs the size of moons. They moved in coordinated swarms, each group working on a different task. Some harvested the station's remains. Others built new machines. Still others were already moving toward the next system. "Get me Admiral Yunji," Somin ordered. "Now." The Admiral's face appeared on the screen within seconds. She looked like she had not slept, but her eyes were sharp and focused. "Captain Somin, what is your status?" "Admiral, they are here. Border Station Gamma 7 is gone. 30 million dead. The harvesters are worse than we thought. They move faster, adapt quicker. We need reinforcements immediately." Yunji's expression did not change, but Somin saw her hands grip the edges of her command console. "Understood. Do not engage. Fall back and continue observation. I am mobilizing the fleet now." 3 days later, the largest military force in galactic history assembled near the border. 2,000 Council vessels joined with 5,000 Earth ships. Commander Hyun stood on the bridge of his own ship, now serving as a liaison between the two fleets. The integration had been rushed, incomplete. But there was no more time. Admiral Unji's face appeared on every screen in every ship. Her voice carried across the fleet with absolute authority. "All vessels, this is Admiral Yunji. 7 hours ago, the harvesters entered Council space. They have already consumed 1 border station and 3 colony worlds. 60 million people are dead. This is the war we have prepared for. This is why we spent 12,000 years in isolation." She paused, and Hyun saw something in her expression. Not fear. Certainty. The Council species have never seen war like this, but Earth has spent millennia preparing for it. So I will be clear about what comes next. We will fight. We will lose ships. We will lose people. These losses are acceptable if they buy us knowledge about the enemy. Hyun heard gasps across the Council channels. The idea of acceptable losses was foreign to most species. Wars in Council space were rare and usually ended with minimal casualties. "I know this sounds harsh," Yunji continued, "but the harvesters do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They consume. Our only choice is to stop them or die trying. Every ship that falls teaches us something. Every death buys information. This is the mathematics of survival." The fleet moved forward. Hyun watched the tactical displays as the two forces approached each other. The harvesters had formed into a massive wall. Billions of machines working together. The combined fleet looked tiny in comparison. "All ships," Yunji's voice rang out. "Target the central clusters. Use weapons pattern Alpha 7. Human vessels will take the lead. Council ships provide supporting fire. On my mark." The first volley lit up space like a supernova. Human ships unleashed weapons that Hyun had only seen in demonstrations. Gravitational lances punched holes through harvester formations. Antimatter bombs removed entire sections from existence. Nanomachine swarms flooded into enemy clusters, disrupting their coordination. The harvesters responded. They flowed around the attacks like water, reforming and adapting. Weapons that worked on one group became less effective as others learned to counter them. It was like fighting an enemy that evolved in real time. First wave effectiveness dropping to 60%, reported one of the tactical officers. They are adapting faster than projected. Expected, Yunji replied calmly. Begin pattern rotation. Do not let them lock onto any single approach. The battle raged for hours. Hyun watched ships on both sides take damage. The harvesters focused on Earth vessels, seeming to recognize them as the greater threat. A human destroyer took a direct hit from a massive beam weapon. It broke apart, and 300 crew members died instantly. Note harvester weapon type and energy signature, Yunji ordered. There was no emotion in her voice. All ships adjust shields to compensate. Hyun felt sick. 300 people had just died, and the Admiral's response was to record data. But he also understood. If those 300 deaths meant the next ship could survive, then their sacrifice had purpose. A council cruiser tried to break through a harvester formation and got surrounded. The machines swarmed over it, covering the hull in seconds. They began to disassemble the ship, taking it apart piece by piece. All human vessels, Yunji said. Cover the council cruiser. Get those people out. 3 Earth destroyers charged into the swarm, weapons blazing. They cleared a path long enough for the council ship to launch its escape pods. But one of the destroyers did not make it out. The harvesters overwhelmed its shields and tore it apart. Commander Hyun activated his communication link. Admiral, that destroyer just sacrificed itself to save a council ship. Yes, Yunji replied. That is what allies do. The battle continued. Slowly, the combined fleet pushed the harvesters back. But the cost was terrible. When the enemy finally retreated, the fleet had lost 300 ships. 200 of them were human vessels. Over 200,000 people were dead. Hyun sat in his command chair, staring at the casualty reports. He had been in space for 60 years and never seen anything like this. In one battle, more people had died than in the last century of council conflicts combined. Dr. Jiwon appeared on the command screen. She looked exhausted. Commander Hyun, I need to speak with Admiral Yunji immediately. It is urgent. Hyun connected the call. Yunji's face appeared, showing the first signs of weariness. Dr. Jiwon, your report? Admiral, we analyzed the harvester behavior during the battle. They were learning, yes, but they were also communicating. Every harvester in that fleet was connected to something larger. A central intelligence. We expected this, Yunji said. The swarm intelligence model. No, Admiral. It is worse than that. The harvesters we fought today were not the main force. They were scouts. Advanced scouts, but scouts nonetheless. I have been analyzing long-range sensor data. The main swarm is still weeks away, and it is hundreds of times larger than what we just fought. The silence on the bridge was absolute. Hyun felt his blood turn to ice. If that battle had been against scouts, what would the main force be like? How large? Yunji asked, her voice steady. Based on gravitational readings, the main swarm contains approximately 10 trillion individual machines, possibly more. Admiral, if they all enter the galaxy at once, we cannot stop them. Not with the current fleet, not with anything we have built. Yunji was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice carried a weight that Hyun would remember for the rest of his life. Recall the reserve fleet. All of it. Every ship we kept hidden. Every weapon we were saving for worst-case scenarios. Bring it all to the front line. Admiral, Hyun said, the reserve fleet was supposed to protect Earth if everything else failed. If you commit it here, then Earth will be undefended, Yunji finished. I know, but if we lose here, Earth falls anyway. If the harvesters break through, nowhere will be safe. We commit everything now or we lose everything later. She looked directly at the camera, and Hyun saw the burden she carried. 12,000 years of preparation, generations of humans who lived and died working toward this moment, and now she was betting it all on one desperate defense. Send the recall order, Yunji said, and get me Captain Daeho. I need someone to deliver a message to High Chancellor Vex. Captain Daeho appeared on another screen. He was aboard one of the frontline vessels, his uniform scorched from a hull breach he had helped seal.
Captain, Yunji said.
Tell the Council that the harvesters are coming in force. Tell them we are committing our entire military to this fight, and tell them that if they have any weapons, any ships, any resources they have been holding back, now is the time to commit them too. Because in 3 weeks the main swarm will arrive, and after that there will be no second chances. Daeho saluted. I will deliver your message, Admiral. The call ended. Hyun looked at the tactical display, showing the massive red cloud slowly approaching. In 3 weeks, everything would be decided. The galaxy would survive or fall. There was no middle ground. Commander Hyun, Yoonji said quietly, "Are you prepared to die?" Hyun thought about his 60 years of service, about the peaceful galaxy he had grown up in, about how everything was about to change. "Yes," he said. "If it means others live, then yes." Yoonji nodded. "Good, because in 3 weeks many of us will die. Our job is to make sure it means something." The main harvester swarm arrived like a wave of darkness that swallowed stars. Commander Hyun stood on the bridge of his ship, positioned at the barrier line. It was the last defensive position before the harvesters could reach populated council space. Behind him were billions of lives. In front of him was death that stretched across light years of space. The combined fleet had grown. Earth's reserve fleet had arrived, another 5,000 vessels that had been kept hidden. The council had also sent everything they could spare. In total, 15,000 ships faced the approaching swarm. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. It was not enough. "All vessels," Admiral Eunji's voice came across every communication channel. "The enemy will be in weapons range in 30 minutes. All crew members not essential to combat operations should evacuate to the rear positions now." Hyun watched as small transport ships began launching from various vessels. Many crew members were being sent away to safety, but most stayed. They had all volunteered to be here. They all knew what was coming. Ambassador Mirai stood beside Hyun on the bridge. She had insisted on being present for the final battle. "I need to witness this," she had said. "Someone needs to remember what happens here." "Ambassador," Hyun said quietly, "you should evacuate. There is no reason for you to die here." Mirai smiled sadly. "Commander, I have lived for 600 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have negotiated peace between species that hated each other. But I have never seen courage like what I see today. If this is the end, I want to be here with the brave ones." On the flagship Endurance, Admiral Yoonji gathered her senior officers. Captain Daeho was there, along with Dr. Jiwon and Engineer Bora. They all looked tired. The last 3 weeks had been spent in constant preparation, constant planning, but everyone knew the truth. The math was simple and brutal. The harvesters outnumbered them by millions to one. "We cannot win," Yoonji said bluntly. "Not with conventional warfare. I want to make that clear to everyone. If we fight them ship to ship, we lose. They will overwhelm us through sheer numbers." "Then why are we here?" one of the junior officers asked. "Because we have one option left," Yoonji replied. She nodded to Engineer Bora. "Explain Project Crucible." Bora activated a holographic display. It showed a device that looked similar to the antimatter bombs they had been using. But this one was different, larger, more complex. "Project Crucible is a quantum field collapse generator," Bora explained. "When activated, it creates a cascading effect in the fabric of spacetime. Within the affected area, the fundamental forces that hold matter together break down. Everything becomes unstable at the quantum level. In simpler terms," Dr. Jiwon added, "it destroys matter itself, not just breaks it apart, but makes it impossible for complex matter to exist in that region of space." The room was silent. Then one of the council representatives spoke up. "How large is the affected area?" Bora looked uncomfortable. "Based on our calculations, if we activate Crucible here at the barrier line, it will create a dead zone approximately 1,000 light-years across. Any star system within that zone will become uninhabitable. Forever." The silence deepened. 1,000 light-years. That was hundreds of star systems, dozens of inhabited worlds, billions of lives. "You are talking about destroying part of the galaxy to save the rest," the council representative said, his voice shaking. "That is madness. That is survival," Yoonji countered. "The harvesters will not stop. If they break through here, they will consume everything. Within a decade, the entire council will be gone. Within a century, the galaxy will be empty. Crucible stops them absolutely." but it requires sacrifice. Whose sacrifice? Another officer demanded. You are talking about destroying inhabited systems. Who gave you the right to make that choice? Yunji's eyes were hard. I spent 400 years preparing for this moment. 12,000 years of human effort went into building the tools to stop this threat. And yes, we built weapons that could destroy as well as protect, because we knew that sometimes the only way to save something is to be willing to lose part of it. High Chancellor Vex appeared on the communication screens. His crystalline form pulsed with agitation. Admiral Yunji, the Council has reviewed Project Crucible. We cannot authorize its use. The cost is too high. We must find another way. There is no other way, Yunji said flatly. Chancellor, the Harvesters will reach the barrier line in 25 minutes. In 30 minutes, they will break through our defenses. In 1 hour, they will be unstoppable. We either use Crucible now or we lose everything. Then we fight and hope, Vex replied. Hope is not a strategy, Yunji shot back. I have spent my entire life preparing for this. Trust me when I say we are out of options. The argument raged across the fleet. Some agreed with Yunji. Others refused to accept such terrible losses. Hyun listened to it all and felt a weight settle on his chest. He understood both sides. But he also knew that in war, sometimes there were no good choices, only terrible ones. Then Captain Daeho spoke up. What if we could modify Crucible? Everyone turned to look at him. Daeho walked to the holographic display and began manipulating the projection. Bora, you said Crucible creates a field collapse. What if instead of letting it expand in all directions, we directed it? Bora's eyes widened. Direct it? You mean focus the collapse along a single vector? Exactly, Daeho said. Use the field not to destroy space, but to push. Drive the Harvesters back into intergalactic space and seal the entry point behind them. Dr. Jiwon was already running calculations. It would require massive energy, and someone would need to deliver the device directly into the center of the Harvester swarm. The deeper it penetrates, the more effective the push. It could work, Bora said slowly, but the ship carrying Crucible would not survive, and we would need multiple ships to ensure it reaches deep enough. A strike force that penetrates to the swarm's center while the main fleet holds the line. Yunji looked at Daeho. You are proposing a suicide mission. I am proposing a chance, Daeho replied. A chance to save everything without destroying it first. Hyun felt something shift in the fleet. This was different from Yunji's plan. This was not about sacrificing others. This was about those who knew the cost choosing to pay it themselves. I volunteer, Daeho said simply. As do I, said Engineer Bora. And I, added a council officer that Hyun had only met once before. Within minutes, volunteers from across the fleet stepped forward. Human and alien, young and old. They all knew what they were volunteering for. A one-way trip into the heart of an enemy swarm. No possibility of rescue. No chance of survival. 500 ships volunteered. 500 crews willing to die so others could live. Admiral Yunji stood silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Modify Crucible. We launch in 10 minutes, the fleet divided. The strike force of 500 ships formed up around Captain Daeho's vessel, which now carried the modified Crucible device. The remaining ships would hold the line, buying time for the strike force to reach its target. Hyun watched the strike force prepare to leave. Ambassador Mirai was crying openly. So many brave souls, she whispered. How do we honor such sacrifice? We survive, Hyun replied. We remember, and we make sure their deaths mean something. The Harvesters entered weapons range. The main fleet opened fire and space erupted into chaos. Weapons that could destroy planets were unleashed. The Harvesters responded with overwhelming numbers. Ships died on both sides, consumed by fire and void. Through the battle, the strike force drove forward. Daeho's voice came across the command channel, calm despite the chaos around him. All strike vessels maintain formation. We are encountering heavy resistance, but the path is clear. Continue to the center. Hyun watched the tactical display as the strike force pushed deeper. Ships fell one by one, sacrificing themselves to keep the others moving forward. Each loss cut through Hyun like a knife. These were people he had trained with, fought beside, learned to trust. The main fleet was struggling. The Harvesters were too many. They flowed around destroyed machines, learning from each engagement. Human ships fought with desperate ferocity. Council vessels backed them up with everything they had. But the line was breaking. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported. "Sections 7 through 12 are collapsing. The harvesters are breaking through. All reserve ships to those sections," Yunji ordered. "We must hold the line until the strike force reaches the center." On Daiho's ship, Engineer Bora was making final adjustments to Crucible. "Captain, the device is ready. We just need to get another 200,000 kilometers into the swarm." "Understood," Daiho replied. He looked at his crew. They were all young, most of them barely 100 years old. They should have had centuries ahead of them. Instead, they would die in the next few minutes. "It has been an honor serving with you all," Daiho said. One of the crew members smiled. "Sir, my grandfather told me stories about the isolation, about the 12,000 years we spent preparing. He said we did it so that when the time came, we would be ready to do what needed to be done. I think we are ready." The strike force was down to 100 ships, then 50, then 20. Each vessel fought with everything it had, clearing the path forward. "This is it," Daiho said. "Bora, activate Crucible on my mark." The final ships formed a protective shell around Daiho's vessel. They drove into the heart of the harvester swarm, where the density of machines was so thick that space itself seemed to disappear. "Now!" Daiho shouted. Bora activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself screamed. The quantum field collapse initiated, but instead of expanding outward, it formed a directional wave. Like a hand pushing against the harvesters, the field drove them backward. Machines that had been advancing suddenly reversed direction, pulled by forces they could not resist. The collapse grew stronger, feeding on the massive amount of matter in the swarm. It became a wave that pushed everything before it, driving the harvesters back toward the edge of the galaxy. On the Endurance, Dr. Jiwan watched the readings with tears streaming down her face. "It is working. The field is stable and directional. The harvesters are being pushed back." But the readings also showed something else. The ships at the center, including Daiho's vessel, were caught in the field. They were being compressed, torn apart at the quantum level. "Captain Daiho," Yunji said over the communication channel. "Can you hear me?" There was static. Then Daiho's voice came through, breaking apart. "Admiral, we did it. The galaxy is safe. Tell my family I am sorry I cannot come home." "Captain," Yunji began, but the signal cut off. The quantum field reached its peak intensity. With a flash that registered across half the galaxy, it collapsed inward, taking the harvesters with it. When the light faded, the swarm was gone. In its place was a permanent barrier of distorted spacetime, sealing the entry point to the galaxy. The surviving ships floated in stunned silence. The harvesters were gone. The galaxy was safe. But the cost had been staggering. 50,000 ships destroyed, 3 million lives lost. Captain Daiho and his 500 vessels gone completely. 1,000 star systems at the galactic rim rendered temporarily uninhabitable by the energy release. But it was over. They had won. Ambassador Mirai broadcast to the entire galaxy. "Today we witnessed the greatest sacrifice in galactic history. 500 crews gave their lives so that billions could live. They came from dozens of species, but they died as one people, united in purpose, united in sacrifice. Let their names be remembered forever." 50 years passed. The galaxy healed. The uninhabitable systems were slowly recovering. The barrier held firm, keeping the harvesters locked outside. Earth had taken its place as the guardians of the rim, maintaining eternal watch over the seal. Commander Hyun, now Admiral Hyun, commanded a patrol fleet along the barrier. He was over 100 years old now, kept alive by human medical technology. His ships were crewed by dozens of species, all trained in the combined doctrine that had saved the galaxy. He stood on the observation deck looking at the barrier. Behind him, Ambassador Mirai approached. She was older now, moving more slowly but still sharp. "Do you ever wonder if they are still out there?" she asked. "The harvesters on the other side?" "Yes," Hyun admitted. "But the barrier will hold." Captain Daiho and the others made sure of that. "We built a memorial on Earth," Mirai said. "A wall with every name. 500 ships, 3 million lives. I visit it sometimes. To remember what we almost lost, and what we paid to keep it," Hyun nodded. "The galaxy is different now. We learned that sometimes survival requires terrible choices, but we also learned that we are stronger together than apart." They stood in silence watching the stars. The galaxy lived. Civilizations thrived. Children played under alien suns, never knowing how close they had come to darkness. Humanity had returned from isolation stronger than anyone expected. But they had also brought something else. The willingness to make hard choices. The courage to pay terrible costs. The understanding that some things are worth dying for. The legends had been wrong. Earth had not destroyed itself. It had forged itself into exactly what the galaxy needed. And though the price had been high, the galaxy survived because of it.